Astronauts, this is Brandi and welcome back to AstroTarotResearch. I feel like the new year is in full swing. We are all pushing towards those goals, or heck, maybe we're just taking some time to just relax and shake 2024 off. But either way, let us jump into this week's reading. This week's reading is, what does your boss secretly think of you? As always, we have 5 piles to choose from, but before we get started, I do want to remind you to like, to comment, and to subscribe. I would love for you to become an astronaut, and you can constantly check in on what readings are next. I post a reading every week. Speaking of every week, I also go live every week, and that is either on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I do like to switch up the times because I know that you lovely astronauts are in different time zones. Some of you are in the States, some of you in Canada, some of you in India. So I try to be flexible when it comes to the timing. So if you want to ask me a question, all you got to do is join one of those lives. Speaking of questions, the polls should be back in session now. If not, I might have pushed it a little bit further back. But either way, check that community tab and you can vote on what reading you would like to see on this channel. Now let us jump into these piles. Oh, I also forgot to say that any links to social media you can find below in the description bar. Now let's get into these piles. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. So let's not waste any more time and just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey, pile number 1, let's get started on your reading on what your boss secretly thinks of you. Ooh, we have the Star. Ooh, beautiful. We have the 10 of Wands. We have the 8 of Pentacles. Oh, I can't get the card. We have the Death card. And we have North Node, Life's Purpose. Oh, how very interesting that we have these cards spread out here. So right away, we know the Star represents you being someone who is essentially a star at work. You're someone who has a lot of great qualities, including leadership qualities, someone who can be innovative, someone who can think ahead, someone who can think on their feet, someone who stands out among the rest, especially since we have this 10 of Wands here. Now, this 10 of Wands is a very, very interesting card. I mean, they're all interesting cards. But recently, I've gotten the 10 of Wands to represent a lot of my 2024. And I'm just using myself because it's just an easy reference. But I've obviously seen it for other people as well. And what I can say about the 10 of Wands is that it can represent having such a heavy burden, have such a heavy load. It feels like you have so much going on that you can't even think. But when it comes to somebody else's perception of you, they are looking at you like, wow, you have a lot on your plate. You're taking on a lot. You are accomplishing a lot. You have to balance so many different areas of your life. So yes, they're looking at you as that star player, that star teammate, that star employee, but at the same time, they feel like you're the person who is carrying so much. And obviously, they don't believe that you can do it forever or for much longer even. That 10 of Wands, they get drained. They don't have that energy. They are someone who can be just driven to the brink of insanity with the amount of things going on, from work life to personal life to maybe even being in school, maybe even taking some courses, maybe trying to socialize, spend time with friends. 10 of Wands energy is overwhelming. So your boss feels like you might be taking on too much at work. Now, this could possibly be because you are choosing to take on this load, or perhaps that other people are kind of like falling behind and you are being that person who has to pick up the slack. Okay? So they feel like, yes, you are somebody who's responsible. You're someone that they can rely on. They're grateful for the amount of work and effort that you are putting in. But at the same time, they're just like, wow, not sure how you're doing all this or how you're going to be able to keep this up long term. It doesn't seem feasible. It doesn't seem like this is going to be a situation that works out. And the thing that's interesting about the star card as well is we don't talk about this enough, but in astrology, the star card is connected to the Aquarius, sign of Aquarius, the sign of the water bearer. People often kind of confuse Aquarius to being like a very watery sign because it's called the water bearer. But no, it's not the person that's having the water. It's the person that's bearing the water. They're carrying it, meaning they're carrying the load of other people. So when you have a lot of Aquarius energy or Aquarius person, quite often they pick up the burdens of others. So it's almost like a double confirmation that you are picking up the stress and the load and the responsibilities that other people really should be taking care of, that you shouldn't have to handle all of this. So honestly, that's generally what your boss is kind of thinking. They're thinking, you're doing too much. Other people should be taking care of this. Other people should be standing on business and being the ones to take on their roles and take on their responsibilities. You shouldn't have to do certain things. You're spreading yourself thin in a way. They do feel like you obviously are a hard worker. You're very detailed oriented. You are working on being highly masterful and highly skilled at work or with what you're doing. You're very particular about handling your task and perfecting your work. There's almost like this element of perfectionism when it comes to the Eight of Pentacles, because the Eight of Pentacles is the card having to do with apprenticeship. It represents trying to figure out the best way to develop your skill, your technique, and to master it, whatever that case is or whatever it is that you're doing at work. It's like, how can I be the best at this, or how can I be better at this? And sometimes while they're trying to figure out how they can be best or masterful at this, they get to this level of trying to be, perfect, or wanting to be the best, or even trying to figure out their own signature style or routine that works best for them. And it's interesting that I see this Eight of Pentacles here, because generally when we have the Eight of Pentacles, it can represent support. But since we have this Ten of Wands here, the Star card here, maybe you're not getting that much support. It's just elements of like, yeah, you are learning, you're building, you're working on being a really great employee. In fact, you probably are an incredible employee with the Star card here. But it's like, you don't really have a great teacher. You don't really have a great team. You don't have somebody who is helping develop you in the way that you need to be developed. It's not a representation of strong leadership. So this might even be a reflection on their part, where they feel like they may not even be living up to their role as a great leader. And how could they be? We have the Ten of Wands here. If you're overwhelmed, if you have so much on your plate, then obviously they aren't doing the greatest job at delegating work or implementing structures in the workforce. So in a way, they feel like you need more support in order to better yourself, in order to uplift yourself. But they really do feel like you could potentially have some sort of long-term career or even placement or be at the job for a long period, because the star does represent longevity and having to do with going the distance and this feeling of, I guess the word is accomplishment and wish fulfillment. And that usually will happen over like a period of time, especially when we have the Ten of Wands here coming up. But they just feel like the way things are right now is like, I don't think this is going to be it. They do see a leadership qualities in you, especially when we have the North Node. The North Node is a wild card. I mean, K2 and Rahu placements, North Node being Rahu placements, life's purpose and everything like that, represents, well, on a a small level, it represents areas in which you're trying to master, areas in which you are trying to build and bring fulfillment in. You'll see like Rahu people almost like pretending to be characters so that they can immerse themselves in a different environment. For example, let's say they're thrown into a different country. Instead of just being like, I don't know the language and I don't understand anything, they may pretend to understand the language. They may pretend they know what this thing is. They try to assimilate. The story of Rahu is, it's representative of this demon who tries to become a god. So it's about like cloaking yourself and disguising yourself as something that you're not. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we all do things in order to assimilate. I've met Rahu people who in their childhood, they have been ostracized or bullied because they may look or act a certain way. And so in order to avoid that bullying, Rahuvian people will tend to try to assimilate. I'm going to put on this disguise, or I'm going to act this way. And it may not be true to their character, but it's a survival technique. And quite often that's something Rahu people will have to deal with. I've met Rahu people who, you know, they grow up in like the, let's say the southern part of the United States. And when you're in the southern part of the United States, you may have a southern accent. Then you move up north and you have this southern accent and you don't fit in. And every time you talk to someone, they're mentioning your accent. So Rahuvian people, which I have seen, will try to change their accent in order to assimilate, because it will bring them success, obviously, in the long run, to be more like the group. So they may feel like there's certain characteristics about you in which you are maybe putting on a role or not presenting your true self in order to achieve success and to have your goals met in a way, okay? If that makes sense. They feel like there is this cloak hiding the true you. Or maybe the cloak is, you know, you put on this very like professional front. You don't try to be too mixy and sociable, or there's limitations on it or some way. Or you try to keep the relationships very professional, and they don't get to see like your wild side or your fun side or something along the lines of that. It can be very just much like, I'm work oriented, okay? That's something that's very interesting here. But whatever the case may be, they do feel like there's this transformative element when it comes to who you are at work, or how you're presenting yourself as an employee. The thing about this Rahu North Node energy is that they will try to put this veil over themselves in order to make themselves seem like flawless or perfect. Like Rahu people have this, what's the word for it? Reputation for being like very braggadocious, or being very much like, you know, I'm the man, I'm the woman, I can do this thing, I can do that thing, this, that, and the other. But it's strange because they rarely get that image of perfectionism, which you may see like a lot with maybe like Saturnian people. Saturnian people will be like, oh my God, this person is just perfect. They're just flawless. But Rahu people don't get that reputation. And my guess is it's because people can sort of see elements that are just a little bit different, or a little bit quirky, or a little bit out there, that makes them seem like, I don't know, this person doesn't seem who they truly are. So they feel like there's this cloak around you in which they can't really see who you truly are as a person. You're coming across as this star, like something that is beyond, like this person is doing everything. And that's another Rahuvian thing. This person, they seem almost like an alien or some kind of godlike figure that just doesn't, it's like, this is not possible. You're human. How are you doing all of this? You know what I mean? So that's something that they may feel like this is a little bit like, wow, like how are they able to keep all of this up? How are they able to manage everything? How are they able to do this task, do that task, be everywhere all at once? So that's the feeling that they're kind of getting from you. It's impressive for sure. That is what they're seeing. For without a doubt, they do find you to be an impressive person. 100%. I should lead with that. 10 of Wands is definitely someone very impressive, if not tired. So Star card is a very impressive energy, and Rahu North Node energy is very much, I'm trying to impress you. I'm trying to make a good impression. I can do this thing. I've worked at this high level company. I have this Ivy League degree. It's very much like I am an impressive person based on what society is deeming to be impressive. But when we also have the Death card here, it's almost similar to another pal, and I'll say, where there is a different side, or they can see different elements to your personality. It's similar but different in a way, because the Death card represents change and transformation and growth. It represents someone being almost like, when I get for personalities and things like that, I get the Death card to represent a little bit dark. Someone who can be like a very much like they have this element of tragedy to them, or a dark sense of humor, or can be very sarcastic. Also somebody who can be very much like, what's the word? They go through different they go through different evolutions. I'm sorry about that. Throughout their periods in their life. And so your boss is witnessing you going through different evolutions. I don't know why I'm struggling with this word here. And evolving and changing and transforming. So they know that there's different layers, different heights that you're going to reach, and you're going to evolve, and you're going to change, and you're going to grow. So though you may have long-term potential, they feel like if you have reached your limitations here, which you just might have with this 10 of Wands, you might be willing to seek new roles elsewhere. They feel like they will have to change and transform and do things in the work environment in order to provide you opportunities in which you would stay, because you've got this ambitious energy, you've got this breakout energy, you got this energy of wanting to go the distance and be this incredible, well-accomplished person. And you already have a lot of accomplishments under your belt when I'm looking at all of these cards. And from what I'm seeing here is that they feel like you can accomplish so much more. You have the potential to maybe start your own business, start your own company, do freelancing, whatever the case may be. Because Rahu with the North Node, ultimately they've disguised themselves as a god. But at the end of the day, they are a demon, meaning they don't fit into the realms of society, you know? They want to do their own thing. They have their own unique flavor. They have their own unique creativity to them. And so they feel like maybe this job, this role that you're in right now, if it doesn't evolve, if it doesn't change, if it doesn't offer new opportunities, you're going to seek something that's going to be a little bit different, a little bit unusual, a little bit grand, something that brings you more freedom to fully be yourself. But they've seen you grow, they've seen you change, they've seen you transform in very dramatic ways. In very dramatic ways, okay? So that's something that's made a very huge impression on them. They find you to be very detail-oriented, very focused, very particular. You're the type of person to notice a hair out of place, a misplaced period, a comma that doesn't match, a misspelled word, anything. This document doesn't add up. These numbers don't match. Like, it's very much a very sharp, analytical, I can see what's going on here. I can see the imperfections in this type of energy. I can see where we need improvement. This would be better to implement this idea. We can innovate in this way. Like, very forward thinking you have. Very much like, we need to go grow. We need to move. We need to develop. We need to go with the times. We need to implement new ideas. So you have this incredibly innovative mindset. That is what your boss thinks of you. Incredibly powerful, incredibly transformative. But there is a lack of vulnerability. I will say that. So there's a sense of guardedness. That is what I want to say with this combination of cards. Now, Not that the Death card can't be vulnerable at times, but when I combine it with the other cards and how I'm seeing this reading and the messages coming through, you're not allowing people to penetrate that private life that much. So like I said, you're about that business, and that is what your boss is kind of thinking of you. But you are very insightful. You have strong intuition, and you have a lot of great ideas which can help you grow far within your career or job, or wherever direction that you want to go in life. Okay? You're all about how can I reinvent myself to get where I want to go. And they will see you change, develop, grow, reinvent yourself, and be that type of person. Whoever you need to be, or however you need to be, or whatever skill set you need to get in order to grasp the things that you truly desire, that is what you're going to do. And they see that it's such strong ambition coming from you. Oh God, it's such strong ambition. But that is what I have for you, pile number one. If this doesn't resonate, feel free to choose a new pile, or maybe I'm not the reader for you. Either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if this resonates below. I love hearing your comments and what you have to say. Don't forget to check out the community tab. I go live, like I said, on the weekends, and look for that in the community tab as well. And au revoir. Hey pal, number two, let's get started on what your boss secretly thinks of you. We have the Four of Swords. We have the Queen of Cups. We have the Nine of Cups. We have the Strength card. And we have Second House Owning. All right. So, right off the bat, my first thought is your boss actually thinks that you are somebody who has sort of like a more quiet confidence, especially when we have this Strength card here and the Four of Swords. You're not the type of energy to, really brag on your accomplishments. You feel like your work speaks for itself. And then with the Four of Swords energy, it's not exactly known to be like this super ambitious, gotta get this done, go-getter card. It's more so, I do things on my own time. If I need to take my breaks, I need to take my breaks. The Nine of Cups energy is also about enjoyment, pleasure, fulfillment, enjoying life essentially, and being able to let your hair down, relax, have a good time. So you're not someone who is extremely, let me focus on doing the best job possible, but you're more so looking for a work atmosphere that is nurturing, that is fulfilling, that is peaceful. And if you can't find that, you'll create it for yourself. That is what your boss sees in you. They see someone who is going to be very laid back, who is going to be someone who needs their time off, who needs their breaks, who needs to go on vacation, who will use their sick leave. Like, you are the person who you're like, hey, I just need to just get away from this environment sometime. You need that rest and recovery. That is 100% important to you. And so people see, your boss sees that about you. They see that you're someone who needs moments of pause, who needs moments of relaxation, who is not going to be the person who's working through the holidays, who's not going to be the person who's trying to get that overtime or, taking on extra work. You are someone who needs more balance and a sense of stability within your life, especially since we have that second house nature. For you, I think your boss recognizes that you come to work to make money. You're not coming there to be the head honcho in charge. You're not coming there to take over, to gain skill sets, to find another job. You're not using this as like a stepping stone. I mean, you might be able to be using it as a stepping stone, but they don't see that. And they feel like, hey, you're like, I'm a practical person. I need to go to work. I need to make money. And that's what I'm here to do. And they feel like that's what you do. Nothing more, nothing less here. With the Queen of Cups here, we know that you're a very open and empathetic individual. that you are somebody who people feel like they can come to for their problems. You're not going to be extremely judgmental. You're going to listen. Not only that, but you're going to provide insightful advice. This represents having a lot of emotional maturity, being able to understand when we're getting a little bit far away from the point and maybe there's some feelings involved and you need to play the mediator. You're willing to take on that role to keep the peace, especially with the Strength card here. They feel like there is a lot that you're holding back. Yes, some people may get on your nerves sometimes with the Strength card here. That is all about let me work your nerves and challenge you. But you manage to stay calm and you manage to stay level-headed, and you're very supportive of your team members and your colleagues, and people see that. You may even be that person who brings in like cake and snacks and pastries or something along that into the office, because the Nine of Cups is that person who wants everyone to have a good time, to enjoy themselves, to seek some sort of pleasure. Definitely the type of person to like give gifts to other people. Oh my gosh, it's this person's birthday. Let me get them a gift. This person is having a baby. Let me make sure I get something for their baby shower. It's just very thoughtful type of energy that we have here. They feel like you're the person that cares for a lot of people. You have a lot of emotional intelligence and a lot of compassion for other individuals in their situation. Okay? Normally when we get the Queen of Cups in a career, it's kind of like you play this counselor role, especially to those in your work environment. And with the second house energy, you may even be providing people with insightful advice to apply to their job, or just generally in future circumstances when it comes to making money or career moves. So they may feel like you are just an insightful person to those around you. Maybe you're even offering help if somebody is kind of confused about a task, or you take a proactive approach when it comes to, you know, you see somebody struggling with something and you offer to help them out, or, you know, somebody spills something and then you come on and say, okay, let me help you with this spill. This is like, hey, I say hi to people in the morning. I ask them about their weekend. I check on them about their kids, their family, whatever things are going on with their life. They feel like you are someone who represents having that strong emotional care for other people. This also represents you being highly resilient, especially with that Strength card here. They know that you're not always up for a conversation all the time, especially since we start off with this Four of Swords energy, which is like, I just need my space. So they recognize that. But they feel like you're somebody who is, even though you're like, oh, I need my space right now, you know what? I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to let them rant for a bit. And then I am going to go back to my space and de-stress and kind of like wave that energy off of me, okay? They feel like that is kind of your vibe and kind of your energy and kind of your skill set. Obviously, as an employee, they do feel like you are someone they can rely on, because we have the Strength card here, and the Strength card is always very dependable. And like I said, they're like, you don't do too much, you know, you don't do too little. You stay right there at this balance point where if they ask you to do something, it's done. You're not that over-the-top, overachiever type of person, or at least that's not how it feels for them. They feel like you manage to get your work done and in good timing. Granted, with the Strength card here, sometimes, you know, you may want to take your time and do a good job with something, because Strength is like, I don't want to rush into anything. I want to take my time. I want to get it done, and I want to get it done right. But they feel like you make good timing overall, okay? You're the person who they feel like is really good at resolving conflicts, really good at overcoming challenges, really great at coming up with solutions when it comes to things. But for the most part, we do have this very laid back atmosphere, and it's very interesting, okay? And then they also may have this element to you, because we have the Strength in the second house here. When I see these cards coming together, it's kind of like you have like a powerful voice. It represents like not technically speaking a lot, but when you do speak, it's almost like people pay attention. It's like that lion's roar, right? With the strength card energy here. And then obviously strength card is like someone who carries like a lot of powerful weight, powerful burdens and wisdoms, and practicing self-control when it comes to the things that they speak. So they feel like you're somebody who's very careful with their words. And someone who has the ability to, you know, break bad news in a positive way, which can be difficult for some people, you know, that happens. We all have to learn to communicate in a way that is effective and works for us. Definitely a lot of confidence. They feel like you're somebody who knows their worth, that you add a lot of value into the work environment, and that you are somebody who they feel will always fight for fair wages, fair pay, for promotions, for opportunities. Like they're like, you are very money minded and also very particular and focused when it comes to your finances and bettering yourself. They feel like you're the person who doesn't play about their money at all. And you're going to make sure that you are going to be compensated fairly for your time, your energy, and your efforts. That is what they are seeing. Very assertive type of energy coming through with this placement. Part of you can be very family oriented, or maybe it's just that you make a lot of connections at work and you have a good amount of, like, you know, work buddies or work friends or things along the lines of that. Always open for maybe some like after hours or hang out with coworkers. You may have that vibe or energy about you, especially with this combination of 9 of Cups and the second house and things along the lines of that. You know, depending on the job or something like that. Some jobs may be like, oh, let's get drinks after works, or we're gonna have like a company lunch, dinner. Our department is going out for a meal. Our apartment's going out for this thing, and they may feel like you're the person who's like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll go and I'll hang out. Excuse me, my voice. I'll go and I'll hang out and I'll spend time with you all and gather and etc. Versus like a different vibe where somebody may be like, pull away from that. Now, obviously, if you're too tired, you set those boundaries, because we do have the strength card here, and that's all about setting those strong boundaries and learning what works for you and what doesn't work for you. But overall, they feel like you're the type of person who is likely to make sure that, you know, you're always getting paid. You have that sense of job security. You are making sure that you are looking out for your future, but without overexerting yourself. Okay. So that is what I have for you, pal number 2. Let me know if this resonates. If not, you know, feel free to choose a new pal or a new reader. You know, either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. Don't forget to check out the community tab. I go live on the weekends and I post that time on the community tab by Tuesday Eastern Standard Time for you to check out. And also on that community tab, you can vote on which reading you would like to see next. So go ahead and check that out and be an astronaut. I will see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal number 3, let's get started on your reading on what your boss secretly thinks of you. We have the Page of Wands. We have the Knight of Wands. Interesting. We have the Hermit. We have the Magician card. And we have Moon Soul. So let's shift these cards over a little bit. So, very interesting cards, because to me, right away, it shows growth. So the first thing that comes to mind when I see that your boss thinks that you are somebody who is constantly growing, someone who is developing their skill set, who is showing ambition, who is taking the initiative, and who can be generally a very much like a go-getter person, always trying to go to the next level, think of the next project, wanting to get things done quickly. Someone who is not very idle. That's not to say that you don't take the time to think things through, because we do have that Hermit card and the Magician. So it does show versatility in your personality, but it definitely shows that you are somebody who is bursting with new ideas, who is trying to implement new structures or possibly new documents, or come up with new projects, or come up with new ideas. We have two cards here, the Page of Wands and the Knight of Wands, representing newness, representing innovation, representing creativity. And you're bringing that energy into your work environment. So they feel like you are somebody who is bringing something fresh or bringing in a new perspective. It's about starting something with exciting and enthusiasm. If you see that there is some sort of issue or thing that can improve, you try to take the initiative and go for it and implement something that people could, you know, sink their claws into, that could be very productive towards you, or productive towards the work environment, I should say. Now, it may not all be like completely perfect, or it may not have everything that they may be looking for in mind when it comes to the ideas that you are implementing, but it does show that you are taking initiative. It does show that you have some sort of desire for growth, and they truly appreciate that. You can see that in the spread. They don't expect, with the Knight of Wands and the Page of Wands, there's not an expectation for you to be perfect. In fact, for the most part, they kind of look at you as somebody who is constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly developing. There's a reason that we got the Page and the Knight of Wands rather than the King and the Queen of Wands, which is someone who's a little bit more masterful at what they do. They may look at you as somebody who may have some experience, but you may not have a whole lot of experience. Now, maybe that's just because you're young, or maybe that's just their perception of you, where they feel like there is room to grow. Either way, they feel like you're somebody who is bold, someone who is action-oriented, someone who can be spontaneous when it comes to their work environment, is what I see here. Though you may be somebody who is very friendly, I will say that, because we have the Moon and we have the Page and the Knight of Wands. For the most part, we have this energy of the loner. The Hermit is kind of like the center card here. So they feel like, though you were very like like, I wouldn't say super sociable, you're sociable enough to like get the job done, but you are more so somebody who likes to take the time to themselves, needs more time in their own kind of world, own kind of environment, own place to sort of like think and structure their thoughts, and then come back and, you know, give something more masterful. The thing that I love about this is that your boss sees you as somebody who has a strong sense of curiosity and excitement, someone who can be humorous or playful, or, you know, the wands, the Page and the Knight of Wands, they aren't like the most serious cards. So there's definitely an aspect of you that just likes to I don't know, maybe like a goof off at work, or take time to not be so work focused, or to, you know, scroll on YouTube for a bit. Like, basically you need your breaks. You need your mental breaks. You need your mental peace. You need moments that aren't just all work all the time. Okay. That is what I'm trying to say here. So instead of being this personality that just like, I logged into work, I'm doing nothing but work for 8 hours straight, 7 hours straight, or however long you work, or 6 hours. This is like, I just need, you know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to just, you know, scroll through Instagram or something like that. Or like, I need my lunch break, or whatever the case. I need to walk around, like, because the reason I say that is because wand energy doesn't like to sit still. Wand energy is very much, I need to be on the move. I need to be on the go. I don't want to sit at a computer all day. It will drive me up the wall. Like, that is wand energy, especially the Page and the Knight of Wands. The Page and the Knight of Wands cannot stand to sit still, okay? So your boss may see that angsty energy in you, or antsy energy in you, where you feel like, I've just got to move something. I've got to move my body. I've got to think of something to do. I need some task at hand. I need to be on the go. Like, I don't want to sit at this desk. So maybe you're one of those people who has one of those like walking stations at their desk. Maybe during your lunch break, you take walks or something along the lines of that. Or similar to what I said before, where you're like, I need to just scroll through social media. I need to text some friends. I need to make a few calls, like whatever the case may be. But you need your breaks away from work. That is what they say. I will say though, with the Wands, the Page and the Knight of Wands, sometimes they can be somebody who doesn't have full follow through, okay? Now, this may be like, okay, I haven't asked all the right questions, or I haven't followed up on this thing, I haven't completed this project, whatever the case may be. But Wands are kind of known to like get, you know, really enthusiastic about something, have this really energetic start, and then kind of just like dissipate in energy. This may not be like you don't finish your work, but this may be like, hey, I need a few reminders, or something along the lines of like, how I said before, you get enthusiastic about something when you first start, and then like, you know, a month later, you're like, this is draining, this is draining on, like, like it's just this energy just kind of falls off when it comes to that. And that's like that Page and Knight of Wands energy. So they may see that in you, where they see that, you know, at first you have that energy towards the project or a task, and then, you know, towards the end of the day, or the month later, or something along the lines, 2 months later, you're just like, oh, I'm so tired of this thing. Like, I can't do this anymore. And that happens with Wands. That's just what they see. What I see though, when we have the Hermit here, is that is somebody who is definitely intelligent, very thoughtful, and very educated. Generally, I get the Hermit to represent pretty educated people, to be completely honest. And the great thing about it is this is a, you know, what your boss secretly thinks of you. And the Hermit card is connected to Virgo, the 6th house, the house of work. So they do feel like, yeah, you're here to work. You're gung-ho. You're ready to do the tasks that are meant for you to do. Though you may have some moments where, you know, you may mentally drift off, or you get kind of bored or something. You are pretty much somebody who is focused on being present at work, okay? For the most part, the majority of your energy is giving that, okay? Like I said, though there is this element of you that is very spontaneous, very much like, let's go ahead and go gung-ho and go into it and get it done. Even sometimes we get it done without a plan in place, or like without a structure, because Wands don't tend to like structure. You know, even the King of Wands is like, let's see, you know, he's not the most structured card, right? But even so, there is an element of your personality that does like to implement some rules and some structures. So what I'm thinking here is that some days, or some projects, or, you know, some moments in time, you're very much like, let's go and let's get it done. Other moments, you're like, actually, let's pause and think this through. So you're very dynamic, which when I first pulled the Moon card, I was kind of like, oh, this is an interesting card to pull when it comes to sort of a work spread. But now that I'm looking at the cards thoroughly and the messages are coming in, it makes a lot of sense. The Moon goes through various different phases and cycles. And that's kind of like you at work. You have your times where you are this spontaneous go-getter, let's just dive in and do the work. And then you have other times when you are very formatted, very structured. Let me plan this through. Let me think this out. Like, the intelligence comes across. We have two cards here, the Magician and the Hermit, both connecting to Mercury energy, because Mercury is just connected to the Magician card. And, you know, there's probably reasons for it. My guess is because in Vedic astrology, Mercury is like one of the, it's the last set of nakshatra rulers at the end of each sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, cycle, spread, nook, whatever the case may be, but it's generally the highest ruled nakshatra. It's towards the end. We have Ashlesha, we have Jesta, and we have Revati. So it's like they're at the end of those nakshatra suits, and those are all ruled by Mercury ruled nakshatras. It represents mastery, it represents completion, it represents full control and power over your universe, which is why it more than likely connects to this Magician card here. So your boss actually sees you as somebody highly capable, someone they could trust the work in. Don't get me wrong, like they got moments where they're just like, oh, I wonder what kind of mood this person's gonna be in, but but for the most part, they see that you are somebody who has the ability to take control of the tasks that are placed upon them. And not only that, but you have a lot of potential for growth. And it represents a level of intelligence, and it represents being able to test and see what works for you and to look at things on a deeper reflective level. The Hermit is also solidifying this sort of nature that you have within you to be this highly reflective person. Okay? Someone who is seeking the best way to accomplish something. And not only that, but when we get to the Mercury ruled nakshatras, for Ashlesha, it's kind of like mastery over self, right? Because it's like the end of the self nakshatras. And then for, did I say Ashlesha or Jesta? Ashlesha is kind of like mastery over self. And then Jesta is kind of like mastery over the material world. And then Revati is sort of just mastery over, I guess you would say the spiritual world or emotions or just everything, because it's the accumulation point of all the nakshatra points. Which is why you'll see a lot of Revati people deal with themes of like creativity and mastery and control of the universe. And you'll always see them playing like godlike figures like Morgan Freeman or something like that. But in movies and something like that, like this higher wisdom, you know, the wealth nakshatra. Really, I mean, in the wealth nakshatra, which can be like wealth of spirit, actual wealth, because you'll see them being Nepo babies, and also wealth of knowledge. All right, that's what we have here. So they feel like you are a highly intelligent, capable person. They feel like you can do whatever you set your mind to, that there's a lot of introspection when it comes to you, and maybe even a bit of showmanship. Like there's this element of the magician that wants to show off, that wants to be the person who is, you know, putting on a show and showing these magical tricks to an audience or something, or like things along the lines of that. Like you're proud of your work, you know, that's something that people will see within you. It represents having strong willpower. It represents confidence. It represents being creative and resourceful. And so you have all of these qualities. And so I would imagine your boss likes that about you. And thus they feel like, okay, I have a competent employee. Even if they don't know everything, they are growing, because we're going from page to wands. They are thoughtful. And like I said, they're somebody who is resourceful. I remember one time I got the Magician card, and this was for like jury duty, and I didn't check in. I didn't read the full letter for jury duty, and you're supposed to check in like a week or something before to get the link. It was over Zoom or something like that. I don't know if it was specifically Zoom, but it was one of those, you know, video conferencing apps or something like that. So the day of, I tried to log into the jury duty. I realized I don't have the proper links and everything. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to find the proper links, or they're going to think I'm just ignoring jury duty? And I pulled the Magician card. And obviously the Magician card represents resourcefulness and being able to figure out the situation and problem solve. And yes, eventually I did problem solve that. You know, I called the courthouse. They gave me the one-on-one on how to get like the code and everything. And I logged in, and then I was dismissed from jury duty. I didn't even have to do it. So the Magician card represents being able to accomplish the tasks that are given to you, even if you don't have all the answers, even if you don't see like an answer right away immediately. You have the tools to get the answers that you want or that you need in order to get the job done. And then we have the Moon representing here, like I said, representing all the different aspects of your personality. I'm going to wrap this up because I tend to talk a little bit long. So I'll say this. The moon can represent someone who is very charismatic. Same with the Mercury card here. It's interesting because when I get the Hermit card, that's usually someone who is not the most talkative person. But since we have the Page of Wands, the Knight of Wands, the Moon, and the Mercury, kind of makes me think that when you are talking and when you do get into like a flow with someone, people find you a bit charming. They find you very friendly. They find you very like soothing and nice to talk to, or pleasant to talk to, in a way that you're somebody who will possibly be a good listener. Like you see a lot of moon ruled nakshatra placements associated with ideas like therapy and connection and group ideology. That's why when I talked about my moon rule study, you had a lot of them be like cult leaders, that and like K2 ruled people. There's this sort of charismatic nature to the moon ruled nakshatras, which is why you'll see moon ruled people have like these sort of neotenous face. Like people will tend to think, oh my God, that person looks so innocent. That person looks so sweet. And they can be seen as just very approachable, like, because they have that friendly sort of welcoming face generally. And it kind of goes into their nature as well, where when they're talking to people, not all the time, but there is this charm to them. They come across as very genuine. There's obviously different personality types for each sort of moon nakshatra. Like Rohini is probably going to be seen as the most kind of like soft, innocent, naive one, but I do want to get, and then Asta is going to be a little bit more like calculated type of energy, and then they may come across like they're a little bit bitter or jaded or something like that. And then Shravana can be a little bit more serious or fearful, or even just somebody who has a little bit more leadership qualities to them. But either way, what they all have in common is they all have that sense of charm to them. So there's an aspect of your personality and how you work and how you do things that brings about like a natural charm to you, a natural sweetness. And the thing is, you come across as genuine. You come across as somebody who is being honest and forthright. But with the Magician card here, it does represent the ability to manipulate. And then we also have with the moon, which I went into with my moon ruled nakshatra video, especially moon ruled men, there's the dark side of the moon, right? So there's an element of your personality that remains a mystery, especially with the Hermit card here. So your boss kind of feels like, yeah, you have a lot of charisma, but then there's also a side of you that just remains very hidden, that they just don't know about. And they wonder if there's like this sort of maybe manipulative side to it, but they don't have any evidence of that, especially with this spread here. So that's kind of interesting to note about, you know. So when we have all of these cards come together. And then the last thing that I want to mention, because the moon also represents creativity, innovation, as well as emotional depth and connection. And then both of these cards have to do with social attunement. They may feel like you have the ability to be more socially attuned and understanding to other people. So there's an element of empathy when it comes to you. So that is what I have for you, pal. Number 3, quite the impression you have made on your boss. Definitely they feel like there's a lot of different layers to your personality that is yet to be discovered. So very interesting. But I will leave it there. Let me know if this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new pile or a new reader. Maybe I'm not the one for you. Who knows? Feel free to check out the polls as I mentioned before. Become an astronaut, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal, number 4. Let's get started on your boss secretly thinks of you. We have the Fool. We have the Chariot. We have the Ace of Swords, we have the Page of Wands, and we have Libra Balance. Perfect card that we have here. So one thing that I see here is that you're the person to call if somebody wants the job done quick, fast, and in a hurry. That you are a very productive person. And even if you don't have all the answers, because when we have the Fool card here, the Fool card is somebody who is inexperienced, okay? They're unpredictable. They go march by the beat of their own drum. Now, this is not to say that you're inexperienced, but maybe for some of you, 30% or something, this is a new job for you, or a new work environment, or maybe even a new career, or something along the lines of that. And so you don't have the full plate of knowledge as somebody who would have 10 or 20 years of experience would have, right? And that's what the Fool card can represent in this case. For the other percentage of you, well, this can just represent you being someone who prefers to do things their own way. The Fool doesn't have this guideline book to show them do this step, that step, this thing. And even if they did, they would throw it out the window, because the Fool is all about being your unique, uninhibited self. You know, that's why when you look into the history of the Fool, it's connected to, you know, madness and unpredictability and all of these things like that with the Fool card here. So there's something about you as an employee in which people really can't pin you down as either like a person or just an employee in general. And when it comes to, you know, your work style or what you like to do. Another thing the Fool can represent, and this can be for a smaller percentage of you, just because I know most of the population is not in this position, is this can represent a more remote role. And I'd say that because remote jobs, though they have been around for some time, they've only just kind of now becoming more popular. So it's something that's a little bit different, not totally and completely mainstream across the board. So it can just represent you being in that remote position. So if you're in a remote employee, then this represents you being like the Fool here. So when we put these cards together, when we have the Chariot, the Ace of Swords, and this Page of Wands energy, we have somebody who's obviously very energetic and enthusiastic about what they do, or at least that's how you come across. I can get the Page of Wands to be someone who can sometimes get a little bit feisty, or a little bit like irritated sometimes. So there may be some moments where you're just like, okay, don't bother him or her today, okay? Because they're in quite a mood. But overall, they want to do work. They don't want to sit around being bored and twiddling their thumbs. They like to be proactive. All wands like to move. All wands like to do things. And the wands houses, especially in astrology, connect to fire. And the fire houses represent education and learning and growth and skill set. So when we have these cards here with this Ace of Swords and the Page of Wands, it represents developing new skill sets, learning on the job possibly. So they may feel like you're somebody who's really great at picking things up on the job or as you go, and that you have a lot of potential for growth, especially maybe at this particular job. And you may even come up with some interesting new ideas that people want to, that you may want to implement, structures, thoughts, things that might make things easier for people, whatever the case may be. There's so many various different examples of this. For example, you may feel like, hey, I think we should have like an emergency code system in case we encounter this sort of event or that sort of event. We could say some sort of secret code like, okay, gray means, you know, we've got like a really angry employee, or blue means we have an emergency situation. We need to call the ambulance, whatever the case may be. But it's about implementing new ideas, thought process, and structures. It could even be something along the lines of like, if you're trying to sell things for someone, you know, I think we should make sure to, you know, use their name and make it more personalized and whatever, implementing some sort of creative or thoughtful idea in order to be more productive, create more sales, create a better work environment. Whatever the case, the goal is you're trying to enter those thought places into the work environment. The Page of Wands loves change. They love development. They love growth. They love new ideas. They love being able to try new things. And they really feel like that you're somebody who comes with that type of energy. But once again, because the Page of Wands is this rookie card, it kind of emphasizes this sort of newness or inexperiencedness when it comes to how your boss is viewing you in a way. So I think that's very interesting. So I don't know if this is, like I said, a new job, new position, or just maybe you haven't fully pushed the boundaries of what you could do yet or what you've shown your boss. But for the most part, they feel like there's still more to learn and more to grow, but you are taking the initiative. You are wanting to grow. You are exploring new paths. You are curious about what other people are doing. You're curious about what your job could offer, whether that is opportunities for learning, opportunities to take on growth or adventures, whatever the case. Not adventures, well, maybe depending on your job it could be an adventure, because you know some jobs can send you out places and then you have to like take notes or do some sort of write some sort of report or interview people, whatever the case your job may have to do with that. Page of Wands too can also represent, especially with the Ace of Wands here, having a very more so direct communication style, meaning you kind of like to get to the point. You may not want to spend too much time going through all the details, which can be good to some degree because it can represent things being done at like a faster pace and saying, hey, let's just get this done. Let's have everything finished. Let's wrap things up. But when it comes to things that involve a lot more long-term projects and endurance, you know, the Page of Wands can be that card that can get a little distracted, or, you know, take too many risks, or not think things through and plan things out fully, which can happen due to a lack of experience or just being so excited that you just want to push forward. So there is that to it. But one thing we do have here, which we've seemed to have with a lot of the pals, we have this card that represents like you being a standout player, or you being someone who is more than capable, especially with the Chariot. The Chariot is all about victory. It's that card of championship. It's like, I am going to make sure we get this done no matter what, which I love being able to see that with so many different pals, because it shows the seriousness of how you take your job. So your boss, your boss 100% sees you as somebody who takes their role seriously. And it's actually interesting because I got the Chariot card to sort of represent partially my year last year. And if anybody follows my channel, they know that last year was just definitely a doozy for me. But one thing that happened, especially in particular last year, is that, you know, I had a lot of things that I set out to do and I accomplished. Like I was looking for a job in my new chosen field and I was really struggling to find it. It was very much that Chariot energy where you're trying to pull everything to go in one direction and you're, you know, shuffling along that path and it's rocky, and then boom, you finally get to your destination at finish line, and I got that job that I wanted. So for me, it feels like when you set your mind to something and you set your focus to something, you do get it done. Granted, there may be some things along the way where you're like, I'm struggling a little bit with balance, but it ultimately, you're trying to find your speed. You're trying to find what works for you. You're trying to make sure that you can prevent burnout, and you don't have to, you can communicate in a way that people understand exactly what you are trying to say, or any deals that you're offering if you're a salesperson, any sort of, you know, report that you need to write up, any sort of instructions you need to give. You're making sure that you're trying to be clear and flexible in your communication, which is what I love about the Page of Wands, is that even though they can be very direct, they're also learning and they're growing and they're taking in that feedback. So they feel like you're somebody who really takes in feedback really well. And when we have this Libra eye balance scales, you know, Libra's not this Zen type of energy that is automatically just balanced, but they're more so representing trying to find that balance, trying to find that place where everything makes sense, where everything is fair. It reminds me of like the court system. So randomly I was looking up sort of like divorces and prenups. Just, I get curious sometimes and my mind just wanders off. And one thing that I found out about, you know, prenups is more than likely what the courts will do is they try to make sure that the prenup is fair for both parties, that it sets both parties up for success. You see all these horror movies about, you know, some rich person trying to protect all of their interests, and then the person that they marry is kind of like left out in the dust. But most courts will try to ensure that the person who may not have as much financial independence, or, you know, maybe they're incapacitated in some way, or they're handicapped, or they're sick, or whatever the case may be, the courts try to make it fair so that if they ever get a divorce, that both parties are set up to live some sort of successful life after marriage, or at least that's how it's supposed to be. And most of the time it is that way, but you know, there's obviously exceptions to the rule. But that's pretty much how they see you at work, as somebody who's trying to create that balance, trying to make sure that things are fair for everyone, trying to ensure that you get everyone's input in a way. And in a way, it kind of reminds me of the Chariot too. Even though the Chariot can be one-track minded, one thing that they do is they try to look at where other people are succeeding and what other people are doing. And it makes me feel like there's some element of your personality that is doing that at work. Like I said, you're listening to that feedback, you're seeing what other people are doing, you're seeing how you can implement that into your life. Like, you're growing into your own style, and that's pretty much how your boss sees you. Yes, sometimes you may have your moments where you can get a little snippy, because the Page of Wands can represent that, and a little feisty, but there's ultimately a lot of passion there, and a lot of growth there, and a lot of excitability when it comes to being successful, even if it's not just excitability about the job itself, but it represents wanting to be successful and to create relationships that are functioning and that aren't hostile, and we can all communicate in an effective manner with respect to one another, and we are respecting each other's unique point of views and how we see the world. It kind of reminds me of like having Uranus in Libra in a sense, and we can also read this as Uranus in Cancer, because we have this Fool card energy, and then the Chariot is Cancer, and then Libra here. But let's start with Uranus in Libra. So this Uranus and Libra energy wants to form relationships, but at the same time it wants to form relationships with people who are innovative, who think differently, who are a little bit outside the box. So something tells me that, one, they see you in that light as somebody who is drawn towards people who can be different and innovative, but at the same time they feel that you are somebody who really respects being able to keep a healthy emotional distance from your work, like not get too attached to the work that you're doing and letting it affect like you emotionally, or letting it affect you from some sort of self-worth perspective. Here in America, a lot of our culture centers productivity and connects it to our self-worth, which is why in this country we see vacation more of a luxury rather than something that is a necessary right, which is why we may have like 10 or 11 days of vacation, versus in Europe you may be like a country like, let's say, Denmark or Finland, or I don't know if it's Finland this applies to, probably does, but they may have like 4 weeks off or something like that. So they see you as somebody who is implementing your own values, who is not super tied emotionally to your work, who is there to perform the job, but at the same time you want to do a great job at it because you recognize it can lead you to further success. And you may have some unusual career goals. You may want to go on a different path than those that's expected for you, or that other people may think that you should probably go on. So you have some unusual thoughts and ideas and goals, which your boss may find very interesting. And then we also have this Uranus and Cancer sort of feel too, which kind of goes into that emotional detachment type of energy too. But it also deals with bringing in transformation and innovation into the home environment. When I've seen Uranus transit homes, it can represent somebody who can move, which in this case would be like, hey, this job is not something permanent for me. I'm just here to gain a certain amount of experience and move on. And your boss may see you in that light. Or two, it's like, I'm here to implement changes into this place. Like, I want this place to feel like a home for me. And to do that, I have to transform things. I have to put in my input. I have to make sure that I'm being heard and that we are developing things and different, maybe unusual type of manner. It's just bringing your own unique flavor into the work environment is what I'm getting at here. But that is what I have for you, and hopefully this resonates. If not, you know, feel free to choose a new pile or a new reader. Either way, I'm very, very happy you stopped by. You have a very pleasant reputation. People, your boss generally feels like, you know, you have a long way to go, but you have the right mindset, especially when it comes, like, you have a natural instinct to build connections with people and to have people leave conversations feeling good and positive. And I think that's something to you know, give yourself on a pat on the back for. But like I said, if this doesn't resonate, feel free to choose a new pile or maybe a new reader. Either way, I'm happy you stopped by. Don't forget to tell me if it resonates below. I love reading your comments. Feel free to check out the community tab. I go live Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That time will be posted by Tuesday Eastern Standard Time. And you can also vote on the next reading that you will see on this channel. Maybe not the next, but it will be done. So that is what I have for you. Au revoir. Hey, pile number 5. Let's get into what your boss secretly thinks of you. We have the Knight of Swords, the Seven of Pentacles reversed, the Sun card, the King of Swords, and Air Elements, to match that King of Swords type of energy and that Knight of Swords. So, one thing that we see here with the combination of all these swords, one thing that we see here with the combination of all these swords is that you are very communicative. Swords represent intellect, they represent communications, they represent skill set, they represent fairness and balance and objectivity, okay? They represent that mental clarity, the ability to cut through conflict and to find the truth within the matter. It's not just listening to the he said, she said. It's gathering all perspectives and coming to a fair and logical conclusion, trying to break through all of the noise and all of the faux logic out there that we have here, pseudo intelligence. We don't need any of that with the swords. So the swords here let me know that your boss finds you to be very much a sharp person, someone who has a highly active mind, someone who seeks clarity, someone who is there to overcome obstacles and challenges. And the thing about the swords thing is that it's very interesting. You see all of these cards of like success with the pentacles or happiness with the cups. And then even with the wand, you have your sort of like victory moments. But the sword suit is kind of like this very sorrowful and stressful and anxiety producing suit. Probably because the mind is so active, so it goes in so many different directions. You have the Nine of Swords, which represents anxiety, and then you have the Ten of Swords dealing with betrayal and loss, and then the Eight of Swords feeling trapped, constricted, and all of these things. So to me, when I see all of this sword energy, there's a part of you that will more than likely, your boss sees you as someone who's always trying to look out for the worst possible case scenario. You're trying to anticipate problems before they happen, and you are trying to more than likely solve them. With the Seven of Pentacles reversed, because we have the Sun and all of these positive sword cards around it, it makes me think that you are being overly analytical when it comes to anticipating what could possibly go wrong. The Seven of Pentacles can get very detail oriented when it's upright, and when it is reversed, it's almost like it is overanalyzing a situation, or it's thinking very, very deeply about things, or you might be putting in too much work and things along the lines of that. It's like not taking the full amount of time you need to celebrate your successes. Not that you don't celebrate them, but maybe your boss feels like that you kind of give yourself a small pat on the back before you continue to move forward and try to move on to the next situation, move on to the next project, move on to the next task, okay? And then sometimes it can represent, with this reverse position, taking a little bit more time than necessary to go over a task. It's like following a little bit behind, because the Seven of Pentacles, when it's reversed, can be overly perfectionistic, okay? And so it almost comes across as, I guess I'll say wasted effort, or effort that could be redirected in a different direction. when it comes to the Seven of Pentacles reverse, often leading to like, oh, I put so much work into this one task that probably didn't need to be putting a lot of work into it. For example, it's like, let's say you are organizing your files in a folder, and instead of just giving like a general overview of like the files and having some sort of basic structure, you're like, all right, I've got to capitalize, make sure every file letter is capitalized with this. I've got to give it a code. I've got to have a document referencing these files. And it's just like, it's a little bit overdoing it. So sometimes your boss feels like you might be overdoing it. And it makes sense with this Knight of Swords. I often get the Knight of Swords to either being like under communication or over communication, like providing too much detail, providing too much information. And that makes me feel like there are elements to your personality at work that are going a little bit overboard and needs to like fall back and create balance. The good thing that we see here is that we have the Sun card, which represents fun, joy, intelligence, success, triumph. So you are doing a great job at your work. You're doing absolutely fantastic. Is there room for improvement? Yes, but you could say that about everyone, right? And ultimately, they feel like you're somebody who shines bright at what you do, that you are somebody who can pick up things quickly, that you come across to be very smart, very educated, a fun person, excitable person, someone who is open to new ideas and taking chances and taking risks, which they love that about you. The Sun represents, you know, a new day, a new beginning, something positive happening in your life. It represents celebration. It represents a time of success. It's probably one of the most positive cards in the deck. Not that the Sun doesn't have its bad attributes, but generally it's seen as a positive card. So they feel like you bring a positive attitude at work, that you have a very optimistic mindset, that you're very future oriented, that you look out and care for other people, because Sun connects to nourishment. It's not just the moon there to nourish you. The Sun is also providing that nourishment. And we also have to think about how the moon gets its light from the Sun. So without the Sun, you know, there's no light from the moon, right? So you are also shining a light on other people. You congratulate others. You communicate well with other people. You speak your mind. You have a clear message that you are able to put across. You are growing in your skills. You're growing in your ability to build relationships, and it's really admirable. Like there's a sense of like, wow, this person really has a lot of leadership qualities, and your boss sees that in you. They see that growth within you. They see the ability to create stability and long-term success when it comes to your job. They see that you're more than likely meant to be in a position where you are guiding others, and that you are somebody who has the intellect to do so. The intellect, the skills, the knowledge, and the personal demeanor in order to be able to handle complicated situations, whether that's you're working with customer service, you're working one-on-one with teams, you're working with some sort of stakeholders. It doesn't matter. Whatever the case may be, they feel that you are someone who is able to clearly communicate what needs to be done. Though sometimes, you know, you might provide too many details, or you may look over things and not provide enough, whatever the case may be. But it doesn't matter, because you're the person who's likely to go over and correct any mistakes or anything that's missing. And you are someone who will check themselves. You'll say, oh, okay, I didn't realize I missed that. You take accountability for, you know, the areas on which you may not be doing the best in. And you're someone who always rises to the occasion, okay? That is very much strong within your presence, okay? They may feel like you're someone who is putting in more work than necessary, meaning you're working longer hours. And I only say that because we have the Seven of Pentacles reverse, which can be like, okay, I'm working overtime, but I'm not getting paid for that. So it can sometimes be like I'm going above and beyond the job, what is necessary in order to be successful. And your boss is feeling like, hey, you don't need to do all of that, okay? I don't get this feeling that you are, you know, lazy in any sense of the word. In fact, the Sun is such a proactive card. It lets me know that you are on top of things. You take the initiative. You're definitely that go-getter type of energy. And you're somebody who is very successful. Your boss sees you as a successful employee, as somebody to look up to, someone that people should, you know, to some degree imitate in a way, because you have so many positive qualities in you. Does everything that you touch turn out perfect and everything you touch turns into gold? No, but it is successful and the job gets done, and overall you're doing a great job at work. That is what we see here, okay? It feels like, you know, there's still some areas to learn, to grow, but for the most part, I really do see that your boss sees you as somebody who is more than capable on taking on the tasks that are given to you. They may even feel like, to some degree, that you might feel like you're being undervalued or your skill set is not fully utilized, because this Knight of Swords and this Seven of Pentacles came up first. And maybe they feel like you're somebody who needs a little bit more of a challenge in some degree, because with this King of Swords here and this Knight of Swords going on here, it's almost like you're given these Knight of Swords tasks, but you are capable of so much more. And I think your boss can see that, okay? They may feel like sometimes you don't believe that the work that you're putting in, the efforts that you're putting in are truly being reflected or being shown, and maybe sometimes you just can't see the results of all your efforts. There was this study that I was reading for class where you have different personality types, and certain personality types are more like very, very empathetic, meaning they obviously want to help people and they want to see that work reflected, versus you have other types who may just be focused on the job or may focus on success or some sort of monetary gain or status when it comes to tackling a job. So the people who are more empathetic want to be able to see that they are actually helping and benefiting people. So when they don't get to hear the stories about how somebody has helped them, then they feel a little bit like, oh, this is not motivating me. This is making me feel a little bit sad. I don't feel satisfied in my work. Versus the people who may just be at it for the status or monetary gains. Well, they don't really have that same reaction when they aren't hearing and seeing the stories on how their work affects people and others, okay? So they may feel like something along the lines of that, where you kind of need to be able to see the fruits of your labor to order to feel that sense of motivation. And when you see it, you're like, oh, this is so great. And it just revitalizes you and makes you feel like you're making a difference in the world, okay? And that's something that they may have noticed about you. Overall, they may feel like you're someone who you just need to be able to see that the work you're doing matters, it's meaningful, it makes a difference, there's a change. And that's something that brings a lot of happiness and joy within you. But generally, they feel like you're somebody who brings such positivity to the work that you do. And there is no end to what you can accomplish here, okay? Great communication skills, very professional presentation, especially with the King of Swords. Generally, a well-balanced energy is what they get from you, generally, okay? You may have some days that it's a little bit chaotic, but then most of the part, for doing an overview of who you are as an employee, this is what they see you as, like someone who is like, okay, you know, I have my moments, but for the most part, I'm coming to do the job and I'm doing a great job at it. So that is what I have for you, pal. Number 5. Don't forget to, like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the reading below. So definitely leave a comment. And if this pile doesn't resonate, feel free to choose a new pile or new reader. Either way, I'm happy you stopped by. Au revoir.